Hi there, I'm nicodehaan, and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced and natural wild world.
To recover our rights and freedoms and to regain our natural health. I'm Ellen Dahan.
Recover our natural health and regain our rights and freedoms.
I know. I got all the
We're
words.
a little rusty. Yeah, you got it all in. That's great.
What difference does it make? What
Yeah,
order?
it really doesn't make any difference at all. But it's a beautiful day in Durango, Colorado. Right now, 73 degrees and going up to 83. But it's beautiful at night with 53 degrees. So, it's been
gorgeous.
wonderful. That's for sure.
A lot better than last summer, which was brutally hot in July.
Yeah, this year has been
Very
fantastic.
moderate.
Please subscribe to our YouTube or Odysee channels. Hit the follow button, hit that like button, and help our channel grow. And we post on Facebook and LinkedIn for your convenience also. And now, if you hit the link below the show notes, you can maximize your nutrition with products from Mother Earth Labs. These are products that we use to supplement our diet. So take a look at that. And we look at mainstream news stories about anti-aging, natural health, history, climate, as well as our freedom. And we do our own analysis. Any questions or comments, please, put them in the show notes below, or below the show notes in the comments section, or you can email me at nicodehaan@me.com. That's about it.
I just wanted to mention that one of the things that we take from the Mother Earth Labs is a multivitamin that's in a form of a liquid. And it's got vitamins and minerals and trace minerals and just everything that you could think of and some things you never would have thought of that's in the formula. So it's really easy. It's what we call the one-shot wonder.
Well, it's actually two products mixed together. Yeah, take a look at it. And, we've been using it for 20 years, something like that.
It's good.
Anyway, we went on vacation, so we've been gone quite a while, maybe about 4 weeks or something like that. But we took a trip around the north.
First of all, it was my birthday.
Yes, okay.
So we took a tour of the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, went through Wyoming, Montana.
Devil's Tower in Wyoming.
Yeah, we kind of skirted the east side of Wyoming and then went up across Montana to Glacier National Park.
And to Mount Rainier.
Yeah, we crossed over not Utah, but
Idaho.
Idaho, that was it, yeah. And then into Washington, went to Mount Rainier, like you said, and then followed the Columbia River pretty much into Oregon and went to the wine country down there.
And also went to the beach.
Yeah.
Went to see the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was fun.
It was
a lot of time
really
in the car, but...
yeah, we put almost 5,000 miles on the car in the 2 weeks. And,
the view and the vistas and the scenery were just spectacular.
Yeah, and we normally don't take the expressway, so we were all on county roads, and there was nobody on the road. So that's really sweet. And that way you can kind of relax and take your time, which we did. And then we ended up in just north of Eugene, Oregon, and stayed with some family.
Well, one of the purposes of the trip was to visit my niece and my nephew-in-law, my great niece and my great nephew.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
And my niece's in-laws, with whom we'd become friends.
Yeah, so that was great. And then after that, we kind of just headed home. Took a couple of days to get home and spent a couple of days around the house and reorganizing our garden and taking care of weeding and things like that.
Well, there had been quite a bit of rain as well, so that we have a front bed that's got daisies and roses in it, and the rose bush was just blooming like crazy, and the daisies were all covered with buds, so now they're all blooming.
And that rose bush is kind of neat because it's like a triple.
It's grafted.
It's grafted with 3 different colored roses. One particular rose has 2 colors in it itself, right?
Well, there's yellow roses, and light pink roses, and then a darker pink. Yeah. And every year it's just a little different color, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So we're back. I don't know how regular we're going to be during the summer, but because we've got a couple of other trips planned, but we're going to be here as much as possible. And we kind of wanted to revisit the Methylene Blue, but we're going to start off with the general consensus, the latest on the COVID and how to navigate the virus this summer. And the first article is called "COVID Cases May Be on the Rise," and here's how to navigate the a virus this summer.
I'll remember that what we do is we find these articles and we kind of report on them for you and put them in the link and encourage you to do your own research and figure out how you want to feel about it.
Yeah, and we're just going to tell you our feelings about it. So they're talking about the new COVID infections seem to be increasing.
Now, first of all, you got may be on the rise, appear to be increasing, and which is interesting to me that that's how they're couching it. It's not definitive that, in fact, anything's going on. And then also it occurs to me that the flu and COVID and so on are supposed to be winter diseases. And,
well, they're so-called viruses. We know viruses really aren't alive, but there's accumulation of material that infects people and they have trouble. It seems to us that most likely that if you have problems with this, that your immune system is compromised in certain ways. Now,
and there is such a thing as a summer cold. You know, and coronavirus is the same virus. It's in the same family as the plain old common cold.
Yeah.
So
it says here, testing soon after experiencing COVID symptoms and wearing masks indoors if you're high risk are among the best practices. Now,
well, first it says that as of June 25th, COVID infections are likely growing in 44 states,
according to the CDC.
According to the CDC, and then it says, so it just
starts
with may and appear and could,
and then it says, given the grim news,
news. Yeah, oh boy,
you may be wondering about the odds of contracting the virus and the latest recommendations. So let's see what they are.
Well, the grim. First of all, just the term "given the grim news," that already gets your brain going.
Yeah, in a way it does.
With a fear thing. Grim.
The Grim Reaper is around the corner.
Exactly.
Knowing your risk, you can gain immunity to COVID by having previous infections and through vaccinations. However, how long the immunity lasts depends on several factors.
I mean, according to this, there's really no such thing as permanent immunity to anything, but in fact, there is. If you've had the disease, generally speaking, you don't get it again. Before COVID.
Well, it was like measles. You could only get once, that type of thing. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, that's so if you've got updated vaccines in the fall, you'll most likely have some immunity to the new dominant strains.
Now, again, they use the word dominant, which is research has shown that each time there's a new strain, it's slightly less virulent than the one before. Mm-hmm. And slightly less likely to be dangerous or as infectious or whatever it is. And so...
well, here's a couple of sentences. However, this author explains that immunity tends to wane after 6 months or less, and the vaccine wasn't specifically targeted for the new viruses.
Now, remember that's important. The vaccine was not specifically targeted for the new variants.
It says collective immunity, which is kind of...
Just a second. The next sentence says that the new variants are more, and here's a term for you, immune evasive. Now, what in the world does that mean?
I don't know.
I mean, it would seem, if you take the words as they're stated, it would look like that you're not going to be immune to these new variances because somehow they can get around the immunity.
Yeah, they can recognize what's going on and say, I'm going to avoid that. Right. That's kind of what it means, right?
Yeah, immune evasive. All right.
So the author here says collective immunity, which is kind of like herd immunity, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, is less than excellent right now, compounding the situation. Part of that is due to the low vaccine turnout.
And because only 20% of the Americans got the updated booster in the fall.
So there's no major...
So what does that mean for everybody?
No clue.
So go ahead.
There are no major social distancing recommendations, they said. Yeah. There used to be like a 6 foot, you need to stay 6 foot.
Social distancing rule was based on the misconception that COVID was only spread through respiratory droplets, but it turns out it's also spread through aerosol particles, like every other cold.
They also have some recommendations here for testing. So if you're dealing with some kind of summer cold, it may actually be COVID, and it's important to find out. I don't know why it would be important to find out. Maybe if you're under complete risk.
Yeah.
Because if you're so, it may be
If
that
your system is so compromised.
So compromised, yeah. So the important thing is to do is, of course, boost your immune system. That's what we've always said.
Not take a booster.
Right. So the symptoms are the usual symptoms: fever, cough, congestion, diarrhea, fatigue, headache, and shortness of breath.
Well, it says if you're high risk, meaning an older adult with certain underlying health conditions, or someone who is immunocompromised, and you get a negative result, they want you to continue testing. Even if you know you've been exposed, especially if you know you've been exposed to the virus. Now, if you test negative, you test negative. How many tests?
Well, the tests aren't that great.
No,
I think that's what they're trying to tell you there.
Well, I don't think, not on purpose, but.
No. So it may be wise to test yourself before you're gathering with high-risk people, like your grandfather.
Now, high-risk people, that's interesting grammatically, because high-risk people, if you read the beginning of the sentence, it may be wise to test yourself before gatherings with high-risk people. That means you're going to go to a gathering with people who are highly likely to be infected and get you infected.
Probably not a smart idea.
But that's not what they mean.
No.
No, they mean anybody who, if you
Is
gave
really
them
young
COVID,
or really old.
that it might have. But they've already shown that the little ones don't get the COVID. That the babies don't get COVID.
Well, here's another sentence. Tests may expire, but the expiration date on the box in your medicine cabinet may differ from the actual expiration date.
Yeah, if your test says it's expired, double check it on the FDA website. They may have extended it. Now, how do you do that? I don't know.
I don't know. None of it makes really sense.
And what to do if you test positive?
Yeah. What do you do? The CDC recommends that you go back to your usual activities when overall symptoms have improved for 24 hours and you haven't had a fever without using fever-reducing medication.
For 24 hours again. And then for 5 days afterwards, CDC recommends wearing a mask, keeping your distance from people, cleaning your indoor air with good ventilation, and practicing good hand hygiene. Although there is an article in here that says the hand hygiene is really irrelevant.
Yeah. And, how to lower your risk. Not much has changed, they say. Wearing a mask can lower your risk.
Although we've seen a lot of
staying
research.
a distance from people who are obviously sick. That's kind of a natural thing.
Yeah,
I mean, if
hopefully.
people are vomiting or they're sneezing,
coughing.
you're not going to go around them. That's just a normal thing. So I think just common sense. If you're high risk, then yeah, I think.
And they also
sense.
mentioned that there are some monoclonal antibody treatments called Pemgarda, which can also reduce your risk of.
And here it says
sick.
also hand hygiene does reduce the risk, but only marginally.
Yeah. So first they tell you, wash your hands a lot, and then they tell you that it's not really important to It's good to wash your hands, but it's not necessary.
So there's also an article here about COVID-19 and the long COVID symptoms.
Yeah, this is a real serious problem, this long COVID, because an awful lot of people are struggling with lingering symptoms of fatigue and illness and cold symptoms.
Well, there's a couple of things in here that are they're under conclusions. You can read the whole article. We're just going to I just wanted to read this one thing here in conclusions. And people who have already contracted COVID-19 and now are suffering from long COVID, receiving a COVID vaccine has a significant association with prolonged symptoms of long COVID for more than 1 year after your initial infection.
Yeah, and they say that right in there.
And this comes from .gov. This comes from the government saying, in people already contracting COVID and now suffering from long COVID, receiving a COVID vaccine has a significant association with prolonged symptoms of long COVID for more than a year. So in other words, if you've gotten the shot and you have long COVID, your symptoms are going to go on.
There is a connection between your symptoms and between
the symptoms
vaccination
and the symptoms
and the long COVID symptoms.
Yeah,
that's what they're saying. And this is
however.
Just one second. The article is from some researchers from the National Institute of Health.
Yeah, from .gov.
.gov.
However, vaccines can reduce the risk of severe COVID.
Yeah, and look, everybody has to make their own decision.
Yeah.
Everybody has to do what they feel is right for themselves. But take a look at what's out there now. There's a lot more information than there was, and make your decision as best you can.
Yeah. So let's go over the recommendations of what actually you need as far as vaccination is concerned. And this comes from Alice Park from
she's
Time
at Time
Magazine.
But she's reporting that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has recommended updated vaccines for the fall to protect against common respiratory diseases. And basically, we know they've been really pushing the RSV and the pneumonia and it says among the changes to their recommendations, people aged 75 and older should get vaccinated against RSV. The COVID-19 vaccine will target a new strain of the virus, and the updated flu shot will include only 3 strains instead of 4 in last year's shot. And then there's a committee that advises the CDC, and this committee's been looking at all of this, and they have made recommendations to the CDC.
RSV now, older adults and younger babies are at the highest risk now. Last year, they didn't say that vaccines are becoming available for that particular group now.
Oh, well, the babies, RSV's been a problem for years.
So
yeah, and you hear about it all the time. And however, this older adults thing is brand new. If you're 75 and older, they're saying you can get RSV.
But now, here it also says that they don't recommend shots for younger adults.
Right. And because earlier this year the FDA approved, although earlier this year the FDA approved the RSV vaccine for people 50 and up, the committee declined to recommend the shot for that age group, saying that there was a risk of Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is has been a known side effect of COVID-19 as well.
Also a risk from the vaccine also.
That from the vaccine.
From the vaccine.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It says it from the vaccine. It doesn't recommend getting a shot.
Don't get the shot because it could lead.
Well, it could compromise your immune system, right?
Right, yeah. That's right.
So the shot so it makes no sense.
But
all
they
this
say
makes no sense to me.
Well, it does say the risk of RSV complications in younger people is so low that the risk-benefit calculations do not favor vaccination.
Yeah. So H5N1?
That would be the next, that's the latest strain of avian influenza, known as bird flu.
Right.
The risk of bird flu in people is low, according to the CDC scientists who presented the latest data to the advisory committee. So no vaccination plans were adopted. The CDC is preparing to make decisions about vaccination if the cases start spreading. And then they point out that so far, 3 people in the United States,
all dairy workers. Now, my concern
have tested positive.
Yeah. So my concern is, are these dairy workers like on a farm milking 3 cows, or are they in these confined stockyard places where there are thousands of cows pooping all over the place? I don't know how clean these places are. All this. Now, we have a video in here. It's the last video in the show notes, and it's really about the flu outbreak in the early
Spanish
20th
flu.
Century. The Spanish flu.
1918 was
right.
it? Yeah.
And
after
it
World
goes
War I.
through the conditions that were around at that time. Mm-hmm. And when I think about this, and it's about a half-hour video, it's really important that
it's very interesting. It's extremely interesting. It talks about how the flu spread, what the conditions were, the soldiers in the trenches, the hospitals. I mean, everything that was going on, the conditions in the cities, and other things that could have contributed to the development of illness.
Yeah, and this
Very,
goes
very
along
interesting.
with the videos that we've had before on polio and different types of diseases that have gone around the world. And when you think about the contamination of our planet and what's been happening over the last 100 years with the spraying, the chemicals that are being used in our water treatment plants, in the companies that the chemical companies that are all up and down the Mississippi River, and also in different countries all around the world, the prevailing winds, the particles that are in the air that can get attached to these things, and we're breathing these. We're taking in chemicals from our food, from our water, in the air. And how does that really affect us? And, why do these things come around and then people get sick, especially people who are compromised? It makes you wonder if this is the problem. And this is our contention.
I think the point is to be made here is that it's not a one-shot easy answer.
Like a virus coming in and taking over.
There are a lot of contributing factors that impact on whether or not a person becomes ill.
Right.
I mean, we didn't get COVID at all, not one time.
We didn't get our shots.
And so the point is that we didn't get boosters, we didn't get anything. And at this point,
it could be just chance. It could be we were just lucky.
We were exposed to it. We know for sure we were exposed to it.
Well, in our dojo, everybody had COVID pretty much.
But not you.
And we're rolling around with these people. And what's the chances of getting something like that if they come and maybe they're testing, maybe they're not, maybe they're feeling a little bit of symptoms, maybe they're not. How long does this symptom, do you have COVID before the symptoms arrive?
Yeah, when is it contagious?
When the symptoms are gone, do you still have it? Are you still contaminating people?
Contagious.
To us, it really doesn't make sense. It makes more sense if you look at that film from the Spanish flu, then you start changing your thinking.
Well, take a look at it, please. Yep. It's very interesting from a historical perspective, but I think we spend a lot of energy researching and taking supplements to boost our immune systems.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about that next.
And we don't have comorbidity, and we watch our weight, and we move, and we have positive attitudes. So
I think all those things contribute to being healthy for sure.
Sure it does. And having that basic platform of health helps a lot with how susceptible you might be to a disease that came down the road, whatever it might be.
Yeah, so
I think the COVID, this article has an important paragraph in it, and it says, the decision about whether to recommend COVID-19 vaccination for the upcoming season wasn't straightforward.
As it was in previous years.
Yeah, because most everyone it says here, has either been exposed to the virus, vaccinated against it, or both. So COVID-19 doesn't have the same health impact on the population it once did. Even though the virus is mutating into different variants, longer-lasting immunity based on T cells appears to be protecting most people from severe disease and death, which raises the question of how critical a yearly vaccine will continue to be.
Yeah, and the T cells appears to be protecting. We really don't know anything on this. So for the upcoming season, they recommend 2 shots of the mRNA technology.
No, they're not. Sorry, back up just a second. Okay. They're pointing out that 2 of the shots will be based on mRNA technology. Yeah. That's Moderna and Pfizer Biotech.
But they're recommending the shot for everybody 6 months or older.
Yeah, and again, it's a booster type thing
But there is no difference. I mean, if I go to the doctor and get a shot, is that a booster shot? If I've gotten it for the first time? No.
No.
It's the initial shot. So there's really no difference between the shot of a boost. What's in it?
Well, that's
if you've had a shot before, you're going to get a booster.
Yeah.
If I get that same shot
right,
and I've never had it before, it's not a booster.
But the point here is the idea of a booster is to give you another dose.
Yeah.
So your
same
immune
shot.
system can react again and get refreshed and replenished and so on. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go on. That's enough of.
Yes, that's enough.
Let's go on to the methylene blue, which is really what we want to talk about because we've been taking this for almost a year now. I've gone from initially doing 5 drops, and we get the liquid kind, we get the pharmaceutical grade,
and it mixes with 8 ounces of water. It has no flavor whatsoever.
Yeah, and we put in our protein shake in the morning, our perfect aminos. So I've elevated it. So I started taking it, and I went to 6 drops, 7 drops, 8 drops. Waited for quite a while, went up to 10 drops after about 6 or 7 months. Now I'm up to 12. Sometimes I take as much as 15 drops. I find at 15 drops, I'm a little more, you can kind of feel it working. So I normally take about 12. If I feel like I need a little extra, then I can go up to 15. And the consensus is now 1 drop per 10 pounds. Mm-hmm. I weigh about 160 to 170 in that range. Mm-hmm. So I could take 16 or 17 probably. Mm-hmm. But 12 seems like a perfect thing for me. Mm-hmm. What do you take?
I take 10.
You take 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now let's back up just for a second here. And what is this methylene blue? And so originally it was a dye it was a laboratory made dye that was used to
dye blue jeans.
Blue jeans, denim.
Yeah, other things too, of course.
It was used as a clothing dye, a fabric dye.
Yeah.
And then it began to be used as a stain so that they could see
under a
microscope.
The
and
bacteria
it evolved.
Parasites.
It was originally, let's see now, okay. It was used as a stain for identifying bacteria and parasites.
Notice they don't say viruses.
No, bacteria and parasites.
Right.
Okay, so then researchers thought if the dye highlighted the bacteria and parasites, maybe it could be used to destroy them. And sure enough, it became a successful treatment for malaria.
Yeah.
And it is the first fully laboratory-made medication.
Yeah.
Okay, today it can be used in different situations, and there are possible uses, and some of them are what they call on-label, and some of them are what they call off-label.
Yeah, the FDA approved this for a blood disorder.
Yeah, it's called, what is it called? Methylmoglobinemia. Methylmoglobinemia.
So it's a blood disorder.
Yeah.
And the reason it works so well is because it converts red blood cells into a form that will properly carry and release oxygen. So it's an oxygen booster.
It causes your red blood cells to bind to oxygen in a different way. That the disease causes a less oxygen being delivered to your organs. And methylene blue works by converting the red blood cells into a form that will properly carry and release the oxygen.
Yep.
In other words, it turns oxygen-containing red blood cells back into their normal state.
Yeah. So are there any recommendations for off-label methylene blue uses? And what they found is, of course, for a diagnostic aid, it's been used.
Yeah, apparently, that if you take it internally, it is absorbed in larger amounts in more rapidly dividing cells like cancer cells. So it's been used to find gastrointestinal cancers, overactive parathyroid glands, and cancer inside of lymph nodes.
Also used, of course, for malaria, nail fungus, septic shock, encephalitis.
Encephalopathy.
Yeah.
Which is
methylene blue treats. Does it treat COVID-19? Here it says no.
Well, it says it's not authorized for that,
but we have the next article which we'll go into about that.
Well, one small early study of hospitalized people with COVID found that an oral liquid containing methylene blue, vitamin C, and N-acetylcysteine, which is NAC, which we take, showed improvements in breathing, oxygen saturation, respiratory rate, and fewer days in the hospital.
Yeah. Is it safe? It's very safe. They've talked
It's
about
been
that
around for years and years and
yeah.
years. Yeah.
So anything else here? Don't use it while you're pregnant or nursing, and different studies.
But
So
you have to be careful not to. You don't use it if you're on
any psychotic drugs,
serotonin
boosters.
Anything that can raise serotonin levels. So if you're exposed, it says they don't want you to take it for certain for MAOIs, the inhibitors, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Lots of mostly having to do with
Psychiatry type drugs.
right.
Yeah.
And opioids.
So there's a lot of studies going on, and I looked at articles last week, and there was like a dozen articles talking about Alzheimer's disease, anti-aging, Lyme disease.
Well, looking at methylene blue as a benefit. To help
chemotherapy, radiation induced problems.
Lyme disease, treating Lyme disease, because for a long time there was really very little that could be done to help you with the Lyme disease.
Yeah.
You know, so it's and they're saying that there's a potential for it to be the antioxidant activity to help improve age-related memory problems.
So we've been using this almost a year, and
So what have we found?
Yeah, that's what I want to discuss, because memory.
Yeah,
noticed huge.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
First, I noticed a lightening of my spirit. I just felt calmer and more relaxed right away. Yeah. It helped with, and this was a year ago.
And happy.
Yeah.
I remember that after about 3 days, we kind of looked at each other, we were smiling and gave each other a hug and goes, boy, this stuff is amazing. And that was just after 3 days.
It really helped with the anxiety.
And some of the tests that they were talking about, it starts working almost immediately. Within an hour or two, you can usually sense. Now, it depends on the dosage, of course. I've had a couple of friends that we've recommended taking this, and one of our friends who has had some cancer problems, she said, well, I took 5 drops a couple days. I didn't feel anything, so I'm not using it. That's fine. Everybody has to make up their own mind about these things. Well, 5 drops for somebody that's overweight
or tall or large,
may not work.
Anything.
But you have to start somewhere, and the recommendation usually is 5 drops, and then you can increase it
as you see how you feel.
Yeah. That's how you increase it. And I stayed at like 8 drops for a long time, and then went up to 10. Now I'm up to 12. I've taken it up to 15. And you can definitely feel it. And most of the feeling is that you feel alert. You feel really good. My personal thing has been, how do I recover from jiu-jitsu and doing...
Recovery is
huge. I mean, at first I thought, well, it's twice as fast. Now I think it's like 4 times faster, because my recovery, a lot of times, I'll do some real extensive sparring with people. And normally I would come home and I'd be exhausted for a day or so. And now it's like a couple hours later and boom, I'm fine. And sometimes I don't even notice. I just, I sparred, great. I feel good. And I also know that in the jiu-jitsu world, a lot of the people are using this, even young people are using this. So,
another thing that I found was as a little girl, when I was a little girl, we lived in Florida and we went to the beach. There was no sunscreen. We're talking about the early 50s, And I've been covered with freckles and age spots as I've gotten older and so on.
They have diminished, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, what a difference.
Yeah, me too. Same thing in my face. I had a bunch of them on forehead and stuff.
Freckles are basically almost gone.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. It's amazing.
What else have you noticed? One thing is digestion. So I've been digesting food much, much better on methylene blue. Going to the bathroom in the morning, every single morning, pretty regularly. That's one of my personal things that I've noticed immediately. My gut reaction. So, of course, diet, I think, has something to do with that. But
Yeah, well, let's take it. It's one of the component parts to the way we treat our bodies and our health regime and our aging with dignity and grace plan.
Some of the people that we've recommended to, we have one particular friend that we went out to dinner recently, and she has been going to school for nursing. And she had noticed right away that her study habits were much more memory.
Her mind was clearer.
Yeah, and you could remember things just that. And I've noticed that too, especially in jiu-jitsu. You have to have quick reactions to things. And I'm able to react and remember things without thinking. So things become automatic. And that's huge right there too. As far as retaining information. It's much better. There's no doubt about it. The energy level is better. I'm happier. It's just elevated just about every positive thing in my life right now. This last article that is called Methylene Blue has a potential antiviral activity against SARS-CoV-2, the H1N1 influenza virus, in the absence of UV activation in vitro scientific studies report.
It's a very technical article, but it does say our results support the interest of testing in clinical studies to confirm a preventative or therapeutic efficacy alone or combined with immune sera against two major public health concerns: influenza virus and SARS-CoV-2. So it just does seem that the early studies are showing some positive effects of methylene blue in fighting and preventing COVID.
Yeah, sentence here. And they talk about the study. This suggests that the compound could not only be effective in infected patients, but also that its efficacy can be further increased by immune serum. In other words, it also boosts your immune system.
Right.
So not only if you have the COVID or other related types of influenza and things like that, or colds, or I don't think it has anything to do with what we had a couple of months ago when we had the reaction to the blooming flowers.
Oh, allergies.
Allergies. It doesn't seem to do that. However, I think it makes the symptoms go away quicker.
Well, and it says methylene blue displays virucidal, preventative, or therapeutic activity against influenza virus, H1N1, and SARS-CoV-2. So it's interesting.
Yeah, this is a long article. Take a look at it. It goes into a lot of different details, but most of them are completely positive in just about all aspects of these types of infections.
Yeah.
So we highly recommend that people try this. We use one called from Harmony, but if you look on Amazon, there's a lot of...
It's Earth Harmony, isn't it?
What is it?
Earth Harmony.
Yeah, Earth Harmony is the one we use.
It's not expensive either. I mean,
a bottle will last us about 2 months for both of us, and it's about $30 for a bottle. So very inexpensive.
We
much
should show it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have one.
Grab one. Yeah, because it's. We found it on Amazon, and then we did a subscription, so they sent it to us every couple of months, and that works out well. There you go.
It's called. So it's called Ultimate Methylene Blue. That's the one we use. But there are all alternative manufacturers now.
Earth Harmony.
Yeah.
USP grade Ultimate Methylene Blue.
And it's being used by a lot of people because the last shipment that is being sent to us was delayed a couple of weeks because they were out of stock. And they were asking us, do we want to take another one? Now, this particular one we chose because it also has a different ingredient with some gold.
Yeah, it says it's got nano liquid gold for enhanced photodynamic activity. Yeah. In other words, with UV light, it seems to even work better.
Yeah, and these studies that we were talking about in this particular last article that we put in here was without the UV light. So UV light, taking a sauna, being out in the sun, these things all help the methylene blue also. Anything else you want to say about the methylene blue?
No, I think maybe next week we can talk about NAC and
Some of the other compounds that we're taking.
and other things that we take to help boost our immune system and slow aging of the cells.
Yeah, it seems like the things that we're taking that for anti-aging properties also react with our body in such a way to boost our immune system, which just makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So, we're really deep into the last decade of boosting our immune system, looking for ways that we can live healthier longer. We want to die healthy.
Leaving a beautiful corpse.
Exactly. But I mean, it's an interest of us. Of course, I'm be 80 this year. You just turned 78. So the last 20, 30 years or whatever, however long we live, we want to be active. We want to be able to enjoy our life in such a way that we travel and interact with our friends. And I hate to be spending 10 years in bed.
Or incapacitated in a chair, or unable to drive, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
We're not looking for the fountain of youth. We're not looking to go back 25, 50 years.
No, I don't want to go back. I like exactly where we're at.
Yeah, it's about where we're looking for is assistance with quality of life.
Yeah.
Making sure we feel well, that we sleep well, and that we are able to carry on our daily functions and to continue thinking critically and being sharp mentally.
And that's the reason I really started this show. Back in 2008, I think it was, I started on Tiger Financial News Network because the owner,
and it was
Tom,
a radio show at the time.
Yeah, it was a radio show at the time. Because Tom says, you're a personal trainer, you look great, you want to be healthy. Why not talk about this? Because his network was really about the financial things.
About wealth, about gathering and preserving wealth and taking care of yourself.
And why?
And he said,
if
health
is, I forget exactly the term.
He said, health is wealth.
Yeah, health is wealth. And what good is wealth if you don't have your health?
Right.
And that was the whole point. And that's why I started the show on TFNN. Then we moved out here to Durango. We could no longer do the show because of the time.
The 2-hour
and the
time
expense
difference.
of him having somebody in the studio.
Well, whatever.
Earlier.
It just didn't work out. We weren't willing to do a show.
We started on YouTube.
4:00 in the morning.
Exactly. We didn't want to do that for sure.
It was tough enough when we were in Florida and we were on
downtown.
Camera literally
7 a.m.
at 7 a.m., which meant, and we had to drive at least a half an hour to get there.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I described it, full hair and makeup at 4:30 in the morning. It wasn't
a little easier for me than for you.
Yeah.
But, but anyway, that's how we got here, and now we're just on YouTube. And we don't have I think I have 100 some subscribers, maybe 200. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's grown, and we have people listened, and we have people that comment. We have people that call us and tell us they enjoy the show. So we're just keeping this going, not only just for you, but for us, because this keeps us involved in the research that we're doing. I've always had a passion for this type of stuff, but in the last 20 years, the passion has grown just because I've gotten older, and now I just want to be healthy.
Well, there's more information available too. I mean,
There's a
the
lot.
internet is a tremendous resource. Yes, it's full of a bunch of nonsense, but
you can dig it out yourself.
Yeah.
And the important thing is that we're just not having one source like the government or the CDC.
We do look at all the government stuff. We also look at the alternative.
Yeah.
We look at scientific papers that are being published on the internet, and we try and put everything, look at all sides of every story.
Yeah, and the thing that's happened with platforms like YouTube and Rumble and all these other places, we don't really look at the mainstream news anymore. We don't look at MSNBC or CBC, CNN or
Right.
any of those other ones. We mostly get our stuff from YouTube and these other platforms. And we find it much more interesting. It's much more diverse, much more honest in many ways, because many things are not
It's
sponsored.
not as biased.
Yeah, because they're not sponsored in the same way.
Well,
Some
yeah.
of them may be sponsored, but it's not the same pressure where
It's
the
not
sponsor is dictating what
The
you're going to say.
agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's important to us. And this way you can kind of go through it and use your own initiative and use your own common sense, deciding what's real and what's not real.
Yeah. Well, and also what works for you. You know, we've changed our regime a number of times over the years.
Yeah.
Change what we supplement with, and change brands and change formulas and so on. And it's just a matter of if I feel good, and I feel, and it's easy for me to live my daily life.
Yeah, and we know it's not dangerous for us. We're going to try
Right.
it. Yeah, that's
Right.
basically it. So we highly recommend Methylene Blue. We've taken it now for quite a while, and we
If
feel
you have any questions, just put them in the comments below, or send an email to.
And look at those two videos. One video is another video about the methylene blue. It's kind of short. And then take a look about the Spanish flu with Dr. Sam Bailey from New Zealand.
Samantha Bailey.
Yeah, and you'll...
Very interesting.
Yeah, it just kind of rang a bell with me, and I've always thought this in the back of my mind, that all these problems that we have with these pathogens or so-called viruses that come through are not really the viruses that we think they are. I think it's more accumulation of the crap that they're putting in our food, in our water, in the air, and in our environment.
And nothing exists in a vacuum.
No.
Everything is complex systems are what are the human body, the environment, everything is a complex system.
And if you just think about problems like in Florida, a lot of the winds that come from Africa seasonally are sand and dust.
Yeah.
And that really impacts, especially if you have asthma or something like that. Now imagine if particles of contaminations are attached to these things and they come around and they affect you.
It's like you go to a different town and suddenly you have allergies to different things.
Yeah.
Things that, you
Just
built
like a
up
seasonal thing,
you
yeah.
built up immunity in your neighborhood, in your environment, and then you go someplace new and you have to start over again and build up your immunity again. And it's like taking honey, and we get locally sourced honey because that helps with allergies if you have any sensitivity to it. And boy, in the spring, the town is filled with cherry trees, and they bloom like crazy. I mean, it's just, in fact, it's like snow. The white petals of the flowers.
Yeah, we had 5 days of sneezing and coughing, and and then it was gone. So that was nice.
And we didn't have it last year.
No.
Or the year before.
No.
So we'll see what happens next year. But
So
anyway,
a week of not feeling that great was not, and then it's not that we didn't feel great. It was just my nose was running all the time.
Boy, did I sneeze from the time I got up in the morning till the time I went to bed. It was monumental, but
Anyway.
otherwise felt fine,
So that's the only conditions we really had.
All right, so
that's our show, I think.
Yeah, we'll be back next week.
Thanks for sticking around. We appreciate it.
Be well.
Bye-bye now.